He walked into a police station one night, claiming to remember a murder that hadn't happened yet. The officers laughed until the crime took place exactly as he described. Then he predicted another and another, each one unfolding just as he said, down to the smallest detail. The FBI thought he was behind it, but when they locked him up, he predicted one last event, his own death. And when it happened, the mystery only deepened because the crimes he spoke of hadn't even occurred yet. This is the story of the man who remembered the future. If you love dark mysteries and impossible true crime stories, make sure to like this video and subscribe, because what you're about to hear will stay with you long after it ends. It began with a voice that no one wanted to believe. Calm, deliberate, and disturbingly certain. A man walked into a small police station just before midnight, carrying nothing but a worn notebook and a look that seemed detached from time itself. In 48 hours, he said, a man will die at 113 Brookhaven Street. A single shot to the chest. The killer will leave through the back door. The officers exchanged glances, half amused, half irritated. He spoke with the precision of someone remembering, not guessing. When asked how he knew, the man simply replied, "Because I've already seen it." The sergeant dismissed him, logging the visit as another eccentric rambling. But as the man turned to leave, he said quietly, "You'll remember me when it happens." 2 days later, that address became a crime scene. Halston County, 1997. A quiet suburb where nothing out of the ordinary ever occurred. The kind of place where people left doors unlocked, where sirens meant lost pets, not murder. The man had no ID, no record, no trace of a life anyone could verify. The desk officer noted only a strange calmness, like someone describing the weather rather than predicting death. His account was precise. He mentioned the victim's occupation, the time of death, and even the pattern on the living room rug. It wasn't speculation. It was recollection. When the crime happened, every word was confirmed. The weapon, the door, even the position of the victim's hands. No sign of theft, no motive. Just as he said. The detectives pulled his file again. The recording of his visit vanished. No tape, no footage, as if the event itself resisted evidence. A week later, another envelope arrived at the station. Same handwriting, new address, new date. You ignored the first. The note read, "You won't stop the next." The message wasn't signed, but they knew exactly who it came from. The man who remembered the future had returned. The next murder mirrored the same eerie accuracy. Again, the victim fit the pattern. Again, the timing was exact. Detectives tried tracing the letters. Postmarks pointed nowhere. The sender used gloves, untraceable paper, even ink the lab couldn't match. Then, just as suddenly as he appeared, the man returned to the station. He asked if they had listened this time. Officers surrounded him, demanding answers. He didn't resist. He simply smiled and said, "I told you, it's already happened." The precinct fell silent. One officer whispered, "What do you mean, already happened?" He replied, "Everything you're doing right now, this conversation, I remember it." The statement made no sense, yet something in his tone froze them. It wasn't insanity, it was recognition. When the second crime occurred exactly as he'd described, the FBI stepped in. To them, he wasn't prophetic. He was dangerous. If he wasn't the killer, then how could he possibly know what hadn't yet occurred? To the Bureau, there was only one answer. He had to be involved. Within days, agents raided an abandoned apartment registered under a fake name. Inside, they found dozens of maps, dates, and locations scrawled on the walls, all linked to unsolved or future crimes. None of them matched incidents that had happened yet. He's staging them, one agent concluded. He's creating the pattern to feed his delusion. But the timeline didn't fit. The upcoming crimes were impossible to pre-plan in such detail. When interrogated, the man didn't defend himself. Instead, he asked for a pen. He wrote another prediction, one that involved the agent sitting across from him. "You'll be in a car," he said quietly. "Midday. A red light. A truck will run it." The room went silent. Days later, that agent's car was crushed in a traffic accident. After that, no one laughed. The case file changed status from psychological evaluation to anomalous threat. The FBI decided to isolate him in a federal facility. No contact, constant surveillance. During transport, the man stared out the window murmuring, "Every second feels familiar, because I've already lived it." Psychologists tried diagnosing him: temporal delusion, schizotypal disorder, extreme trauma-induced psychosis. None fit. His EEG scans were normal. The mystery deepened when his fingerprints came back unregistered. No match in any database, not even in birth records. It was as if he didn't exist. The more the Bureau searched, the less they found. He had no past, only a record of the future. And he seemed to know exactly how it would all end. One night, after hours of silence in his cell, he called the guard. Calmly, he said, "Tell them it happens tomorrow, 11:47 p.m. "What happens?" the guard asked. "My death." The message reached the supervisors within minutes. They laughed nervously but still increased surveillance. Every movement was monitored, every breath recorded. "Let him be wrong," one agent whispered. The man didn't speak again for the next 24 hours. He just sat cross-legged on the floor, eyes closed, breathing steady, as if waiting for time to catch up with him. At 11:45 the next night, he opened his eyes and smiled faintly at the camera. 2 minutes later, he collapsed. No struggle, no external cause. By the time medical staff entered the cell, he was already gone. The time of death on the report, 11:47 p.m. Panic followed. Every agent in the facility demanded an explanation. There was none. The footage showed him sitting alone, motionless, until the exact second he'd predicted. No signs of distress, no heart irregularities, nothing. One frame he was alive. The next, lifeless. Forensics found no toxins, no weapon, no external trauma. "People don't just die on command," one investigator said. "Unless," another replied, "they know something we don't." The Bureau sealed the case, classifying it as unexplained fatality. Rumors spread among agents. Some said his body temperature dropped seconds before death. Others swore they saw static interference on the cameras, as if reality itself had glitched. The cell was cleaned, emptied, forgotten, or so they thought. 2 months later, a new murder occurred in another state. The details, again identical to one of his earlier predictions. Then another, and another, all after his death. Each scene matched the handwriting from his earlier notes. Even the phrases used by the killers seemed lifted from his diary. But none of the perpetrators had any connection to him. The realization was terrifying. The timeline didn't start with his words. His words were the timeline. The Bureau reopened his file, searching for anything, a hint, a pattern, a clue about where the information came from. All they found was a series of numbers scribbled on the final page of his file, 2045. Months later, while cataloging evidence from his apartment, a junior analyst discovered a hidden compartment beneath a drawer. Inside lay a leather-bound journal, the same one he'd carried into the station the first night. Its pages were brittle, the handwriting exact and controlled. Dates ran from 1997 to 2045. Each entry described crimes that hadn't yet happened, down to the smallest details. Names, methods, outcomes. Analysts verified dozens of entries that corresponded to events occurring after his death. One agent described the experience as reading the future in past tense. The deeper they read, the stranger it became. Some entries described disasters, unsolved cases, and technological events decades ahead. One entry stopped everyone cold. It read, July 12, 2028. The file is opened again. They finally understand, but too late. That date was still years away. The journal was locked away in a classified vault. No copies, no scans, only whispers among those who'd seen it. Some agents claimed it was an elaborate hoax. Others quietly admitted what no one dared to say aloud. Maybe he wasn't predicting the future. Maybe he was remembering it. The case remains sealed. Officially, it never happened. Unofficially, every agent who worked on it carries the same haunted look when asked about the man with no past. The tone of the investigation turned from skepticism to reverence, not for who he was, but for what he represented. The possibility that memory and time are not what we think they are. Because if someone can remember what hasn't happened yet, then maybe none of us are truly living in the present. This story isn't told from belief or faith or rumor. It's told from the case file, the evidence that shouldn't exist, but does. And whether he was a fraud, a prophet, or something else entirely, one truth remains. He remembered what none of us had lived yet. They say the human mind cannot hold knowledge of the future, that it would fracture under the weight of inevitability. Perhaps that's why he died the way he did. Somewhere, sealed deep within a government archive, his journal still waits. The final page is dated July 2045. The entry reads only one sentence. The circle completes itself. No one knows what it means. But some nights when the right agent passes that locked room, they swear they hear the faint sound of pages turning, as if the story isn't over yet.